For the first 40 years of its existence, North Carolina State basketball was the face of college basketball. They were one of the top teams year in and year out, and then they vanished for 25 years until DJ Burns brought them back in the year of 2024. Everyone thought they were back, and then they were gone again, just like that. Now with Will Wade, they're looking to be a perennial powerhouse yet again, and in year one, Wade's got some tools to do it. This is the rise and fall and rise again of NC State basketball. Contrary to the modern day, NC State used to run the Southern Conference, which then turned into the ACC Conference, behind Everett Case, who was a groundbreaking head coach, a revolutionary head coach, if you will. He went 265-60 through 9 seasons from 1946 to 1955, winning 6 ACC championships in the process. And I know you don't want to talk about stuff from the World War II era, but this is a very important piece because NC State used to be the standard for North Carolina basketball and Tobacco Road. Coach Case would get older and eventually give way to Press Maravich, yes, the father of NBA legend Pete Maravich, who then gave way to Norm Sloan. After a rocky start, Norm Sloan finally got it together in Raleigh, largely in part due to a guy named David Thompson, who was literally the Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan looked up to this dude. In 1973, NC State finished with a perfect 27-0 record, 12-0 in conference play, winning an ACC championship and an ACC tournament championship, but were banned from the NCAA tournament due to some questionable recruiting violations brought on by the NCAA. So no problem, right? Just because the number 1 ranked Wolfpack weren't able to play in that year's tournament, they ran it back the next year, led by David Thompson and Tom Burleson, who would also play in the NBA. The following year in 1974, NC State said, all right, we'll just do it again. They went 30-1, won the ACC again, won the ACC tournament again, and knocked off John Wooden and Bill Walton on a loaded UCLA squad that had 8 future NBA players en route to winning the university's first national championship behind David Thompson, who averaged 26 points and 8 rebounds and won the AP Player of the Year award. After that, Norm Sloan would eventually move on from NC State, making one more big tournament run the final year of his tenure and then leaving for better opportunities, which led to a young head coach coming in by the name of Jim Valvano, maybe one of the most influential coaches in college basketball history, and probably the best coach in the history of North Carolina State, and definitely the best of the modern tournament era. Valvano would make 8 NCAA tournaments in 10 years, of course winning the Miracle National Championship in 1983. Valvano also won 4 ACC championships, as well as making it to 2 other Elite Eights, and had some of the best talent in program history coming through Raleigh. Guys like Thurl Bailey, Nate McMillan, Spud Webb, Tom Gugliotta, and Vinny Del Negro, just to name a few, and had the Wolfpack as a national powerhouse. Like I said, they made 8 tournaments in 10 years, a stretch that has come nowhere close to being replicated since the late 80s, and if it wasn't for NC State having to unfortunately part ways with Coach V, maybe he turns them into a national powerhouse for the next 40 years, much like Mike Krzyzewski, his good friend, did at Duke. After Valvano, there was a slew of coaches in Raleigh that really didn't live up to expectations, and this is kind of the fall of NC State basketball. The Les Robinson era was short, but not very sweet. He led us to 0 ACC championships, no NCAA tournament appearances after his first season, and was eventually fired after 6 years. Then that led to Herb Sendek, who is still coaching today, and he had a better run, did lead us to 5 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances, which is pretty solid, but only one of those years were we above a 7 seed. That was 2004-2005, when we did have a 3 seed on a team that was led by future first-round pick Julius Hodge, and then the following year they made the Sweet 16. That was pretty much the highlight of the Herb Sendek era in Raleigh. However, again, not much of nothing for a team that is aiming to be a powerhouse in college basketball like they were for the first 40 years, really, of the program's existence. After Herb Sendek, it got even worse. We hired former player and national champion Sidney Lowe, who led us to a resounding 0 NCAA tournaments in 5 years in Raleigh, which obviously is not what you're shooting for. He was let go and replaced by Mark Godfrey, who did have some talent come through Raleigh. There's no doubt about it. He had some really good NC State teams, but never really came out with anything to show for it. The highest seed he ever got in an NCAA tournament was an 8 seed, and yes, he made it to 4 consecutive NCAA tournaments, but it never really amounted to anything. In the 2012-2013 season, the team was absolutely loaded, with NC State legends like CJ Leslie and Lorenzo Brown, Richard Howe. They even had a freshman year TJ Warren, and were ranked 6th in the country coming into the season. That promptly resulted in a finish that was not in the top 25. They made the tournament as an 8 seed and got bounced in the first round by Temple. After that, there was a couple more decent years of the Godfrey era, including a BJ Anya hook shot to knock off number 1 seeded Villanova and advance to the Sweet 16. That was ultimately the highlight of the Mark Godfrey era, though, because in 2017, he got busted for giving Dennis Smith Jr. a bag and landing the highest ranked recruit at NC State in quite a while. That led to like 15 wins. I mean, they were terrible. And then Mark Godfrey was gone, bringing in Kevin Keatts. And this is the modern history of NC State. You've probably seen this over the last few years. Keatts was supposed to be a guy that could come in, recruit very well, have a lockdown defense, and win ACC championships at State. He even came in and said in his introductory press conference, Kevin Keatts is a winner. And he didn't really win. He made 2 NCAA tournaments in his first 6 seasons, neither of which were above a 9 seed. And then the 2024 miracle run happens, and of course, if you are in touch with modern college basketball, you know what happens. They were a Michael O'Connell prayer away from Kevin Keatts being fired and going out in the 3rd round of the ACC tournament, but O'Connell banks it in from 40 feet. They go on to beat North Carolina in the ACC championship the following day, make it to the NCAA tournament, and then rattle off 4 more wins against Texas Tech, Oakland, Marquette, and Duke en route to the first Final Four since 1983. And Raleigh was in shambles. That 2024 team was special, but they didn't look good at all. Kevin Keatts was on the hot seat all season long, and he was gone if they didn't make the NCAA tournament. But then DJ Burns turned into one of the March Madness legends of recent years. DJ Horn made tough shot after tough shot. Casey Morsell was 100% on his turnaround fadeaways and locked down anybody on the perimeter. Mo Diarra was a rebounding monster. Jaden Taylor hit big shots, and then Michael O'Connell controlled everything, and when it mattered most, always came up clutch. And that NC State team was special. They got a special place in my heart, of course. And so, of course, Keatts gets this extension after winning the ACC tournament. He gets a couple more years of job security and a few more million, so everybody's like, all right, NC State's back. Jay Billis even said that a sleeping giant in the college basketball world has been awoken. And then they go 12-19 the following year, and Keatts is out the door, bringing in the man himself, Will Wade, who in 1 year has pretty much turned around the trajectory of NC State recruiting. There were no 5-stars that came to NC State in the Kevin Keatts era. Will Wade did it in like a month, flipped Matthew Abel from, I believe, Miami to NC State, and has built himself a squad and looks promising as potentially the best coach NC State's had since Jim Valvano. This is a big time thing in Raleigh. Like, it's buzzing right now. Everybody is all in on the return of NC State basketball, and this is supposed to be the rise once again. We had, a powerhouse back in the early 40s through the 80s where Jim Valvano was winning ACC championships, and then just a dead period from 1990 to like 2024. There were a couple years in there that had good teams, and then of course the 2024 run, which was of course a peak, and then it came crashing all back down to earth the following season. Now we've got Will Wade. Darion Williams, a top 5 transfer in the country, commits to NC State. And this is a well-rounded lineup with guys like Trey Holloman and Allen Breed providing experience in the backcourt. But really what excites me about this backcourt for NC State is guys like Paul McNeil and Matthew Abel. Matthew Abel, a 5-star recruit, should be able to come in and contribute and just get better and better as this year progresses. I mean, we're talking about a 6'5" guy with a silky smooth jumper, can score at ease. And then really the same thing with Paul McNeil, except he's like 6'6", 6'7" maybe. We've got great versatility on the wings with guys like Quadir Copeland, Jerry Dang, and Terrence Arsenault. And I think Terrence Arsenault is a very underrated pickup from Houston. Obviously, the 6th man of the year on a Final Four team, so he's got that championship DNA. Jerry Dang, fantastic, like 6'9" and can shoot. A stretch 4, doesn't really like to go on the interior, but hey, 6'9" guys that can shoot the 3 ball and play defense. We'll take that all day long. And then that doesn't even talk about Darion Williams, who is going to be a front runner for ACC Player of the Year this year. And then you've also got in the front court Van Allen Lubin coming over from Carolina, which is going to just add even more layers to that rivalry. If we still had Paul Mbaya, I'd be like, yeah, this is probably a top 15 team, but unfortunately, Kansas poached him from us. So we don't have him anymore. We got somebody from Wyoming. I don't even want to try and pronounce his name. Not expecting too much from him, but hopefully he can at least be a solid backup 5 because we need some height behind Van Lubin, who is only 6'8". But overall, I think Will Wade, what he's been able to do in year 1, bringing in this much talent on such a quick turnaround, he's going to have NC State in competition in the ACC and nationally for years to come. With that being said, that's going to be it for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button. Leave me a comment down below and hit that subscribe button. If you did enjoy this type of college basketball video, make sure to hit that like button. Like I said, if we hit 300 likes, I'll release the next one on St. John's immediately.